Good morning. The word for you today. Today is Thursday, July 24th, and our devotion today is titled Living Life on Life's Terms. Our scripture passage comes out of the book of Isaiah, chapter 41, verses 8 through 10. Now, before we begin, a little context. So this is written during what's called a gola, an exile, a sending of the covenant people away from their promise. Now, the Bible has a lot of these. Starting with Adam and Eve, they experience an exile from Eden. Abraham experiences an exile from his father's home. Even though it's more intentional, there's still an exile there. Jacob and his sons experience an exile when they move to Egypt to escape the plague. And when the Israelites are conquered, when they are scattered across the Babylonian Empire, that is an exile. So written in this, exile is hard. It decimates morale. And so the prophet says, speaking for relaying God's voice, the prophet says, "But you, Israel, my servant, Jacob, whom I have chosen, the offspring of Abraham, my friend, you whom I took from the ends of the earth and called from its farthest corners, saying to you, you are my servant. I have chosen you and not cast you off. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be afraid, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my victorious right hand." A lot to unpack there. But here's the main thing. When the Israelites were in exile, there were a lot of emotions. But one of the emotions was sorrow. Now, it's pretty obvious why they were separated from their homeland, but it went deeper than that. For the Israelites, Israel was the promised land. For these ancient peoples, Israel was a place where their God, the God of their clans, had promised them a life and abundance. And for that to be ripped away felt as though God had abandoned them. And among that, they were not only separated from the land that God had promised, but the very presence of God in their minds. Because for them, the temple was the holy place, the place where God manifested God's presence. And yet, God, through the prophet, tells them, don't be afraid. You haven't been forgotten by your God. In fact, I still hold you. You haven't been thrown away. This horrible thing hasn't been me tossing you from my presence. I still hold you in spite of all that is going wrong in your life. While this was to a captive Israelite audience, a captive Jewish audience, because this is the time when this is the start of the revolution of the Jewish identity. The exile is really when the Jewish identity becomes a thing. While this was to the Jewish peoples, we inherit this message as we have been adopted by Christ. So what does that mean? In our hardships, in the times in our life where things are going poorly, it's easy to lose sight of God. Not because we want to, but because our vision becomes clouded. It becomes obscured. But God is still there. God's presence has not left us, even though it may feel like there's nobody listening. So, living life on life's terms can mean a lot of things. But in the context of this scripture, I think it means this. Life is not always easy, and life is not always fun. But we will survive. Maybe not in this life. For many of the Jewish peoples during this exile, they never returned to the promised land. They just had to trust that God was still there, that God was still their God. And so for us, maybe there will be times when we don't get out of our exile. We don't get out of our space of harm in this life. And for those of you, I'm sorry, and we walk with you, and the Lord walks with you. But God is still there. God has not cast you away. God still holds you close. You as covenant people. Have a nice day.